all seen those roadside crosses on the side of the road. Crosses usually nailed or affixed to trees or to telegraph poles, usually with an RIP and a name, sometimes with photos, flowers. And consciously or subconsciously, when I see them, I wonder who that person is, what the story is, what happened, what the tragedy was. But it also is a reminder that to check how fast am I going? Am I alert? Am I distracted? It's a reminder that things can go wrong driving on the road. And when things go wrong, there can be tragic and horrible consequences. It's an opportunity to think, what am I doing now? Or how do I drive that endangers myself and others? And how can I change that? There's this ancient story I was reminded of. It's a story in the Jewish tradition. It comes from the time when the people were coming out of Egypt. They'd been slaves and oppressed in Egypt. They were now liberated, free people. They'd received this law, these rules, this structure on how to live as free people. Too often, oppressed people are liberated and then become oppressors because the only systems they know are these oppressive, power, controlling kinds of systems. So these people needed to learn a new way, God's way, the way that God had intended things to be. And they could be a light to the world, to the nations, to show the world how to live in a way that is just and open, loving, caring, merciful, compassionate, inclusive. Anyway, they had this journey from slavery to this new home. And it's a journey of becoming, of learning what it means to live as these free people. To put aside the idols of wealth and power and possessions and control and individualism and all of that. What does it mean to be a people who live together and share with each other and look after one another? Anyway, as they travel, it gets hard. And the sentimentality of Egypt comes to the fore. They remember the good things. They don't remember how hard it was. And they whinge, oh, why did you bring us out of Egypt? We had homes, we had food, we had jobs. It's sentimentalised in the harshness and the pain and the struggle is too easily forgotten. And they complain bitterly about what's happening. Oh, why did you bring us out here to die? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, the water's too bitter, so God makes the water sweet. We're going to starve to death. We'd have no food. So God provides this manna, this flour-like substance that comes on the dew every morning, and they can bake it into a bread. Oh, we don't have any meat. So God provides these quails at night, and they, oh, and then the water runs out. Oh, we're going to die of thirst. There's no water. So God says to Moses, look, thrust that staff of yours into that rock, and out gushes this flow of water. And they continue to whinge and complain. And so as the story goes, it says God sent these snakes, these serpents amongst them, and they bit the people, and some people died, and a painful death. And the people became frightened and unsure, and they went to Moses and said, look, save us. We're sorry for what we've done. Save us. So Moses has a word to God, and God says to Moses, look, Moses, tell you what, these people have been complaining bitterly and annoying me, and look, I tell you what, make a bronze snake, put it on a big pole, and stand it in the middle of the people, and tell them when they get bitten to look up at the snake, and they'll be healed. And so it happens. It's a story I puzzled over. I've been curious and confused about it. But what I think, in reading some stuff this week, I came to realise that really the snakes symbolise our lives when they go out of control. When we follow these paths of temptation, seduction, when we follow the ways of power or control or oppression or individualism, accumulation, when we hold things to ourselves and stop caring about others, when we stop living kindness for the common good, we lose our way. We start competing, we get envious and jealous, and we compete, and inevitably violence comes in and people die. But also in our own lives, when we live in ways that are about us, that are just about me and what I can have and do and my rights and all of that, I start to disconnect from others and push them away and become exclusive, and I lose my way. It's not a way of life. It's not a way of hope. It's not a way of freedom. And so the snake in their midst is a symbol of what happens when things go wrong, what happens when we make those wrong decisions and choose the wrong way, the ways that are not about love, that are not enlightened or life-giving. Our world becomes chaotic and violent and messy. But the snake is also an opportunity for us to look up, that bronze snake, and change, to be reminded of the consequences of following that way. And it's an invitation to redress our lives and walk in a different way, a way that is loving and gracious. It's a way of healing. Similarly, in another story read this week, in John's story of Jesus, in chapter 3, this religious leader, Nicodemus, comes to him at night. Now, this guy should be an enlightened teacher of life and hope for the people in faith. But he's presented as one who lives in darkness, who's ignorant, who doesn't know, and comes to Jesus, who is described as the light of the world, and wants to learn and understand this way of love and light. And so he comes in darkness because he's living in darkness to the one who is light. And they have this conversation, but as part of it, Jesus says, I will be lifted up on a cross. And that cross becomes a symbol, when we look at it, of what happens when the world takes control through power and oppression, when innocent people suffer because others want power and wealth and control, and they reject the ways of love and grace and the common good. There is suffering. The implications when we follow the ways and the patterns of oppressive systems are violence, oppression and struggle. The cross then becomes a symbol of what goes wrong when an innocent one is crucified because the status quo wants to maintain itself. The powers of the world want to remain strong and dominant. The cross also becomes a symbol for us to recognise that there is a different way. There's a way of love and light, that this way of Jesus is an enlightened way of love and justice and hope and peace, a way of working together and being together, of sharing, of mercy, of kindness, of being together and sharing life together, of inclusion. And we can redress our lives and follow in his way. And I think that's what the cross comes to symbolise for us, particularly as we move towards Easter. But the second thing about him being lifted up is not just the cross, that he goes through this death, this crucifixion, but on the other side is resurrection. That when we let go, that when we die to ourselves, or when the systems of the world think they're dominant and powerful, there is another way, a way of life. A way of life that we can hang on to that's about resurrection, about renewal, about new life. It's about healing. It's about restoration of our communities and our nations and our world. Not just human beings, but the earth itself. And this is the message that we really need in this time. As our earth warms, as people fight and argue, as we wrestle with coronavirus, as we struggle with the problems that we have as human beings, food and overpopulation, of refugees, of wars. We need this message, this way of love, this path of love and light and hope, this way that brings people together for a common good and a common purpose, to work together and to work together for the good of the earth and its creatures. And that's the way of Jesus, and that's what we're invited into. Follow in his way.